Did it. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first meeting of the year for the Central Ohio .NET Developers Group, or CONDG. Yeah, happy 2026. Our session today is Intro to GitHub Copilot, your AI programmer, with Chris Steele. Chris, thank you so much for volunteering to present. Just as always, a few things. If you are connected to the Wi-Fi, make sure that you are using that responsibly so that we can have a good stream for everybody online. If you are here in the central office, you probably found us on Meetup, but if not, if somebody dragged you in here, but if you find today's presentation interesting, you want to see what else we got going on, just go to Meetup and find us there. We meet every fourth Thursday of the month from January to October. Very important. It's not always, it's a little bit tricky sometimes to calculate that fourth Thursday of the month. The organizing team is Alan Barber, Matt Elan, and myself. And if you are interested in helping organizing, we could always use the help just finding speakers, just helping people at the door, or helping Alan with setup. So help is always. We also have a YouTube channel where you can find where you will be able to find today's presentation, but also all the presentations that we've ever had at the group. So feel free to check that out. As of earlier today, we had 354 subscribers. All right. We are in Twitter, X, or however you want to call it, but I don't think any of us really posted there. But if you want to just go, if you're still using that platform, you want to follow us. Every once in a while, we use it. We also have a LinkedIn group where we sometimes post the meetings and what we have going on. So feel free to follow us there as well. And we have a Discord server too, where we chat about the sessions and what's coming up, or just as it happens in Discord, just random conversations about what's happening in the world of .NET. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Central Insurance, for hosting us. Again, we're, what is it, a little bit over a year that we've been hosting here, so we really appreciate to have a home. The .NET Foundation that pays all our dues with a meetup, and JetBrains that we're probably going to be raffling some licenses for that, I think. I'll get check with Matt on that. Just almost at the end, but StirTrek is coming up. For those of you that are not familiar with StirTrek or have never been, it's a conference, happens every year here in Columbus area. This year is going to be May 1st. The conference just takes over an entire movie theater. We have a bunch of sessions during the day, and then at the end of the day, your ticket includes gives you the chance to enjoy a movie at the end of the day. So a lot of fun, really good event. We had between 1,200 and 300 attendees last year, I think. Don't know what the movie is going to be yet this year.
It might be something a little different this time.
Yeah, because there isn't anything really big coming around that month, so we still don't know. But the sessions are really good, so make sure that you check that out. So the website is at the bottom. And anyone hiring, raise your hand. So if anyone here is looking for a job, go talk to all these people. And back to StirTrek, actually, the one thing that I missed before we continue and we switch over to Chris is that the call for speakers is currently open. So if you are interested in speaking at StirTrek, go check it out on Sessionize. I'll post the link later in the Discord server for anyone that is interested. It's only open for one more week, Matt, I think.
It's within this week. I think it's
so
4 more days, something like that.
If you're interested, if you want to present there, make sure you get your sessions in. And with that, we'll turn it over to Chris.
And we're looking for sponsors too.
That too, yes.
Awesome. Use this.
Reach.
Yeah, good. Other side. Is it connect? Oh, that is mine. Never mind. Okay, I just got to change the settings. Give me 1 second here. It's doing, I need to change it to mirror. While I'm doing that, I just want to say thank you to CONDG and all the organizers for hosting me and be able to talk about a little bit about AI. Give me a second here. Does anybody remember where the setting is on the Mac? Yeah, I'm in displays, but oh wait, I think it's in this menu over here. Oops. Bentley, I know you know where this is at. Right, help me out, man. Sorry, guys. See it. I feel like they just move this around just to mess with people.
In the meantime, anybody here was a code match last week?
Oh, that is very inconspicuous. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
All right. First thing you guys are going to learn is that this setting is, they moved on me again. Okay. Use as mirror right here. There's this use as right here. So if you guys have a Mac and you guys run into that before, that's how you fix it.
It's also control panel.
It's in the control panel too? I looked, but whatever. Anyway, we're back on track. Sorry about that. Again, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for taking time in your not Monday, today's Thursday evening to come see me talk and hopefully learn something about GitHub Copilot. This talk is sponsored by Improving. I'm going to give a gift away at the end, and I'm going to keep talking. I want to focus more on Copilot than I do on where I work, but just wanted to call that out. If you stick around to the end, there's an opportunity to get a year subscription to GitHub Copilot on Improving. So a little bit about me. I live in Lewis Center, and I have a family of 4 kids. One in college, just started this year. She's going to Ohio University. And what's that? Boo?
Boo.
Oh, Boo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's going there for education, which is great. And my youngest daughter is a sophomore, and my boys are 3rd and 4th grade. And it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. And when I'm not at work, I'm usually doing stuff with them. And the picture on the right is just a little brief moment about Improving. It's been one of the best places I've ever worked, and highly encourage if anybody's ever interested in getting consulting to check it out. My background has primarily been in .NET, full stack development. I've done pretty much all the famous popular front ends. Done a lot of different database technologies like SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, DB2, you name it. I've been doing this for 15 years now, and it's always fun there's always something to learn. And so what are we going to talk about today? GitHub Copilot. So this is an introductory to it. And so we're going to talk about what is Copilot, and then I'm really just going to dive into demos. I want this to be more hands-on because it's better just to see it in action. And then I'm going to leave you guys with some stuff you can continue learning more for yourself, and then questions at the end and the raffle as well. So before I move on, I'd like to see hands of people who are actively using this daily, AI assistant tool. Okay, great. So most everybody, I think all the hands went up. That's great. So hopefully I can still give you guys something you've probably never seen before, or it's always good to reiterate and go over stuff that you already know. Feel free as I go through this to just raise your hand and I'll answer the question as I can. And let's go ahead and just jump into it. So what is GitHub Copilot? It's just an AI coding agent, just like everything else, like Cursor, like Windsurf, like Claude. It's a tool. It's a vessel for being able to do your code, leveraging many different models. A lot of different models you can choose from. So don't want to overcomplicate it there, but it's important to just kind of set the stage on what exactly is it. What can it do? Refactoring your code completions, writing unit tests. That's a fun one for me. One of the things that I do a lot of is when I'm in a new code base that doesn't have unit tests, it's like the first thing I'm doing is asking it to help me build some unit tests. Another great thing that it does is explains your code. You can make stuff run behind the scenes and background tasks, whether it's in the cloud or on your machine. You can have do code reviews, and you can get into other territory. It's not even code related. Like, I've had it pull down a bunch of different data from Datadog and then interpret that data and find the issues that I'm having in the moment for the highly distributed system that I'm working in. It's extremely powerful, and I think it's a lot of fun too. Where can you use it? I just took this from the site. It's integrated in GitHub. VS Code, obviously, Visual Studio. I've never used it in Visual Studio myself. I've been primarily using VS Code for the past several years. But I've heard that there's some challenges with Visual Studio if you're using it there. But you can use it on all the major IDEs, and highly recommend checking it out. See what you think. I feel like the ecosystem with GitHub Copilot, or just the whole ecosystem for GitHub Copilot is pretty good. And it's implemented a little bit differently than some of the other ones, but I think it's a good one to check out. So, how much is it? You can use it for free with limitations. Did I? Okay. You'll see down here it says that you can use for 2,000 completions just for free. Then you can go up to the Pro version, which is the one I use the most. So you can go to Pro Plus, and that just gives you more access to different things. Something to note is that the completions, you are limited to how many times you can use it, especially when it comes to the premium tier. But it I rarely run into the max myself. Maybe you have different experience. But you can also add more if you need to, if you run into that. One cool thing that I'm going to actually mention later is with the Pro Plus, with a lot of different subscription models, I've noticed is they're creating new products that you can only get if you go to the Pro Plus, and in this case, it's GitHub Spark. There's also business tiers, and 2 different levels for that, and I'm sure there's a third one here, depending on your needs. And what this really gets you is, they're not going to train on your data and a bunch of other different things with like security. And so, just wanted to touch on that, just so for you guys' awareness. So, like I said, most of this presentation is demo. I'm going to be doing this live, so hopefully my internet is good, and we'll see how this goes. So first, I want to dive into the plugin, and that's for the IDE. I'm going to use VS Code. I'm going to walk you through the installation. It's pretty straightforward, and then just walk through some of the features. And I'm going to ask for some help from you guys as well on things that you want to see. Got my list here I forgot to bring out. Just keep me on track. All right, cool. I'm going to stop displaying this for a little bit. And then we're going to go to Visual Studio Code. So first thing is how do we install it? Technically, with Visual Studio Code, it comes built in. But if, let's say you don't have it for whatever reason, you have an old version, you would get it from your extensions. You just find GitHub Copilot, and then you install the extension. But like I said, it is built in when you install it these days. So how do you access it? There's this button up here, toggle chat, toggle on and off, and then you have your window over here, and this is where a lot of the magic happens. Is you can change between different modes. You got your agent mode, your ask mode, your edit, and then your plan mode. So agent is probably what you're going to be using a lot of, and that's to make a lot of your code changes across your whole repository. If you want to just understand what, if you don't want it to do any changes, you're just going to ask it. And then this is editing specific files within your workspace, and plan. This is kind of a newer feature. I did this talk back in November, and I think it was still like in preview. So this is something new that I wanted to add, is the plan feature. Has anybody used Cursor before? Okay, so it's similar to that, but it's Microsoft's approach to the plan. It's not as involved from my experience. Maybe I'm missing something. But the idea is you work with the LLM and talk about what you're trying to do, and then it creates a plan for how to execute it, and then it's in a markdown file typically, and then you tell it to go for it once you dial it in. So what I've done here is I have found a solution that is on GitHub with an appropriate license, so I can do this. And I forked it, and I brought the code down. They're not using GitHub Copilot at all in here, and or any type of AI-assisted tooling. So we're starting from fresh, and the reason I wanted to do that is so I can really highlight the features. So let's first start off with well, they have a README file in here, but I still like to show off like some of the capabilities with the how well it does with README files. And I'm just going to say, I'm not going to talk a lot about how to prompt appropriately or get into too much into context engineering. What you're going to see here, though, is how I do my prompts. And I am one of those weird guys that I'm kind with it. I'm not just like telling it what to do. I'm using please. Can you please take a look at this file and update it so that it is better for developers when they first use it. When they first use, oh my gosh, first use the solution. So I'm just going to go straight in the agent mode. I just want to do it. So let's see what it does. And you know, I had some conversations earlier with some people in the crowd, and like, well, how are you going to do this? Because you could do the same prompt multiple times and get something different. I was like, that's actually part of the plan. Just let's work through this live and see how it works for us. So, like any of this, most of you have already have experience in this, but you know, it's going to go through and kind of walk you through what it's doing and give you some information on where its head's at and things like that, and then gives you your output of, oh, here's the improvements that I added. And then, of course, you can go through and look at all the code changes that it's made, and you can you know, keep it, undo it, edit it. I would recommend, if you want to make edits, just continue down this path of just leveraging the window here to make those changes. And what that does is it keeps the context fresh for that window, for that chat window. So my approach to this is, I'm not a big fan of looking at the all the green and stuff like that. So I just like to go to the changes. And sometimes when you're cascading a lot of your changes, I find it easier. I just want to see what it looks like at the end. So this is where I come in here and personally look at all the changes and things that and see what I like and what I dislike. So that's just, you know, some of the things that added some troubleshooting. It looks like they added using this in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. I think that's some good suggestions. Definitely feels like this is a little bit better documentation when we look at this. So as you can see, it's really straightforward. You're just using natural language to do to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. Oops, I think I just pressed a button here. Okay, so now let's move on to some other things in here. So if you want to execute certain MCP servers, you're going to press the /, and then you can actually access all these different commands in here. There's this explain one that will explain certain parts of your code. You got some stuff for fixing stuff or some help, and all kinds of different things that are out of the box. I've not seen this with like a Cursor or Windsurf. This seems to be kind of exclusive with GitHub Copilot, which is, I've not played much around with these features here, but I think I'm sure there's a lot of value here for leveraging them.
What are those at things on the right side of the drop down?
This is the context. So if we look at the tools, so there's a lot of different tools that you can activate, and that's what it's pointing to. These are the tools. So when we drill down in here, you can select these, but there's over 200 of them, and VS Code gets a little wonky when you have all of them activated. So I went through and unclicked a bunch of them. I accidentally had them all clicked just before this, and
It's a good way of working through your tokens.
yep, absolutely. Oops, dang, I did it again. Oops, let me unclick all that, guys. Yeah. Live coding, fun.
Process stuff that
All right. There we go. All right, so we're back to normal. Okay, so there's other cool features in here. You'll notice I'm going to do then the next thing here. I'm going to start fresh with a new context. So these windows, each window that you have here is its own context, and then you can create a new context by creating a new chat window. And this must be kind of newer since the last time I presented, because before we didn't have the ability to have just one or multiple context windows at the same time. So now let's go through and what's another important thing that we want in our code base? We want to do code reviews, self code reviews. We want to follow consistency and things like that within our code. So Copilot has this concept of adding instructions. So we're just going to say, please create a GitHub Copilot instructions for enforcing good coding practices in this code base. And I'm just doing this on the fly. Obviously, we can tweak that. We can give it more information. We can tell it .NET 10 or .NET 8 is what we're using. We can say, we're using Serialog or whatever components we want to add. But this is I would expect that this is going to go through and kind of look and figure that out itself. If you go in the GitHub documentation, there is documentation. They give you like out of the box prompts that you can use as well, that you can apply to do some of these actions. So what I'd expect this to do is it's going to create this GitHub folder, and then you'll see this Copilot instructions. And ultimately what this is a way for you to say, anytime that I'm using doing anything like agent mode or edit mode, it's going to abide by these instructions that you created. Now, you can have multiple of these, and the way this works is through a hierarchy. So let's say I wanted to have instructions for controllers. It would be controllers, a folder in here, and then I'd add instructions for the folder. So you can really drill down into deeper into your repository to really dial in what you're trying to do and some of your coding practices. One cool thing that we've done one thing that we've been experimenting with at I do billable work for clients and things like that as a contractor is we implemented logging standards where our project is a highly distributed system using mass transit, AKS, with RabbitMQ and .NET 8 microservices right now, and logging is a challenge, and we find ourselves we're logging within loops, we're doing all kinds of weird stuff. So we created a role to put in all of our repositories to say to make sure that we're enforcing good logging standards, so that we're not bloating our Datadog instance, especially when we especially when we finally put this product out into production. So that's kind of a cool use of it. Coding standards is a really good one to add, I think, in any of the repositories that you have. So just kind of digging through this, says using C#12, modern syntax patterns. I would expect that this probably pulled some of the best practices from Microsoft, keeping controllers thin. Let's see if it talks about any testing, dependency injection, register service system program CS. Is there anything in here about testing? Single service layer. I'm curious.
It's wrong. You just passed it. 2, 3 up.
What's that?
Testing.
Oh, did I pass it? Okay. Oh, testing consideration. Write code that is testable using DI. Okay. One thing that we could add is actually, we're going to say, actually, I would like to follow TDD. Please update the instructions for TDD. So the context still exists for the Copilot instructions, and then we're just basically going through and saying, okay, you did this, you did the thing, and I'm reviewing it, and I want you to do another thing. I want you to, edit what you just did. So, and again, so when this gets executed is when you do anything within agent or edit mode. So moving on to, let's go ahead and move to a plan. I want to show you guys the plan mode. But before we do plan, I want to do ask. So please look at my code and suggest one easy feature for us to implement. And while that's going to go, I'll show you what this code looks like. I just looked at it right before coming in here. Where'd it go? It's a different project. Localhost. So how to run 5121. So whoever created this is what their website looks like. There's a privacy policy with nothing in it, and then we can add a student. I don't even know what this does. Yes, I'm subscribed. Oh, fails. Okay, which is fine. What we could do is just say, hey, this failed. Let's let me throw this into the code or into the context window and say, hey, what's going on here? Can you fix the issue? But we'll save that. I think you guys get the idea. The power is really unlimited, I feel like, in the chat window here. So let's move on to, let's go back to see what it came up with. Simple to implement, let's say, let's change this to plan mode, and that's something that you can do in this window. What is a good feature? Simple to implement, test controllers. Add view student details. Okay, let's add student details. So this is going to go through and using our instructions, looking at the code, and determine what do we got to do to actually implement these student details. You see it's looking at the controllers, the models, the whole shebang.
While that's going, have you encountered any issues on the larger code bases where it can't understand everything?
Yeah, absolutely. And in those cases, what I found helpful is kind of using like a memory approach, and so. And not just a memory approach like in some type of markdown to help with for the LLM to understand what context it needs to understand at that moment. But if I'm in that situation, oftentimes I'm not chunking it up small enough what I'm trying to do. So if you have a use case that we can talk through, we can talk through that. But that is a really big challenge. Is context. You're limited to so much. Yeah.
I'll just add, because I've used both this and Cursor, and I use Cursor a lot. And when you're doing that kind of the long run things, what you find is there's sort of a dip in the behavior and the accuracy towards the middle. Like you start, like as the context gets larger, there's a place where it doesn't always work as well. And especially if you start to switch, that's like always recommend new chat. If you switch topics, close the chat, start a new question. Because that context is fresh. If you dirty it up with other data from the old ones, you will get dirt. You'll get a lot of noise from that. And it's something you don't, it's good, but it's a lot better if you make sure that one idea per one chat.
Absolutely. And one thing you brought up Cursor that's really nice if you guys have never used it is it actually tells you how much context you have.
Yes, it does.
So that you can know if you're running into hallucinations. There's been times where it just stops. I'm like, why the heck did it stop?
It's supposed to summarize, but I've had it where it just stops. But it is supposed to summarize at the end of that. The problem is it's like a JPEG image, right? You lose accuracy. It's a lossy compression. So it may not summarize exactly how you would do it. Like you said, you might actually tell it, summarize what I've done up to now in your way you want, so you can create a markdown and then refer to that later when you need that set of memories. As just add this to the chat at this point. So, okay, here's the data I had about this. Now talk to us.
Absolutely. So it looks like it's done creating a plan for it. And I'm just going to put it into a markdown file. This is I like how Cursor does it and Windsurf does it. It just automatically creates a markdown file for you. I find it interesting. I'm not quite sure why it's not automatic.
Have you noticed with like one of the GPT models, I think it was, started doing it like ad nauseum, like, oh, let me make a markdown file for the markdown file. And if I had to, this was like when it first came out. I don't know if I think they fixed it. It was with Cursor, but it was like it went 7 deep.
Oh wow!
Like it kept making markdowns for markdowns. I'm almost finished here. Let me create you another markdown.
Yeah, I've never run into that myself. No, but that's a good point. I did gloss over, and somewhat intentionally, is what I'm paying for the middle tier, the GitHub Copilot, and here's how you change the models if you weren't aware. Lots of different ones to choose from, even some that are in preview mode. But those are going to be at your premium costs, and you're limited depending on your tier of subscription that you're on. I personally like to use Cloud Sonnet 4.5 or Opus 4.5 is what I've been using most of lately. However, you see it's a 3x, so every time that you're doing something, it's times 3. In Cursor world that I'm working in right now for my client, we're somehow only being charged 1x, which I think it might be just a subscription model that they're paying for, which is very nice. So I've been abusing that. I feel that Opus is a phenomenal model to use. I'd be curious, who's using Sonnet and who's using, or maybe Opus, one of the two. Opus, yeah, isn't it great? Like, has anybody ever gone beyond that and like tried like GPT-5 Codex or something like that? Yeah, and what was it like? How's your experience been with that? It's not good. My experience. Yeah.
Too much thinking.
Too much thinking. Yep, absolutely. Highly recommend just trying all these out and to see which one you like the most. But I'd wager that most of you guys would land on Sonnet or Opus. They've done a phenomenal job at making their model like developer focused first. And I think that's why it feels like that's why GPT is so far behind. Is they started generic, and then now we're like, okay, well now let's create a developer one. Yeah, go ahead.
So a couple of notes, if you get a Copilot for your employer, I believe they can't control what models are available to you. So
yes.
if you don't see a model, either they haven't enabled it for your organization, or it's also sometimes ID dependent. Visual Studio Code tends to get things pretty rapidly.
Absolutely.
And Visual Studio will get it sometimes. So if you don't see something, that might be why it's not.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Yeah. My next part of this is to go into GitHub and show you guys the features of that if you're not familiar. Go ahead. Your hand was up first, guy.
So as far as it goes with the free versus the pro, like if you go the free and you're like doing a like AI prompt, and it's like going over somehow like your limits? Like, would it somehow stop at what you know? Hey, you're going over your limits. If you want to continue, then you need to upgrade to the Pro, or like, would it give any warnings of sorts? Like when you know that you like reached your limits.
Yeah. So for I've never hit my limit in GitHub Copilot, and so I'm not exactly sure of the experience in that.
You're not trying hard.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I've been in Cursor a lot more lately. So, does anybody know the answer to that?
It's pretty easy to hit your limit in Cursor. Yeah.
In Cursor, your mileage will vary. Like sometimes it just stops, and sometimes it warns you. Like it doesn't tell you my contacts is almost up. It's.
You can change that to always appear at the bottom of your prompt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Good to know. Good to know. There's so much to learn here, guys. It's hard to know it all. You had a question.
Copilot will have you set a
Oh.
budget for that. So if you,
Yes, you can set budgets. Yep.
If you set the budgets to not go over,
Mm-hmm.
when you hit the limit, it'll either switch you to a free model or stop you.
Yep. Yeah.
You can also
Absolutely.
set it so that way it'll just charge you. If you go over.
Okay. Yeah. I've not played around with the budgets. I'm definitely aware of it though.
So the ability to select models is good, but my question is if you're in the middle of a chat and you switch models, does the new model have all your context or no? Or is
It does. Yeah.
So it does.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good to know.
That's kind of cool though, isn't it?
They have like this automatic mode too, I think, where you'll choose the best model based on your question.
Mhm.
I've seen that.
And you get a slight discount for that.
Yeah.
Doing it that way too.
All right, so let's go back to the plane real quick, and then we'll jump into GitHub. I'll commit the code, and we can jump into GitHub. So we asked it to tell us like what would be a good new feature to add, and then it said, hey, how about you add a student view? Okay, great. So we're just kind of like skimming through this. Earlier, I asked it I wanted to do TDD style, and you can see the red-green refactor cycles is in here. It's abiding by the Copilot instructions. And then, you see that it added all the steps that it thinks it needs to do, and then it's very light from my perspective on how their Copilot's planning feature works. However, my experience has been it works really well. I was experimenting more with it not too long ago, and my first impression was there's not a lot here. It's not breaking it down to like all the small tasks that needs to do, like you see in Cursor and other IDEs. But when it goes to the implementation, it actually does a really good job. So you'll see here, if we want to continue with this, we can just we can either say we want to do it in the cloud or we want to do it in the background. So what just happened? Background agent will work nicely. Okay. Sure, we changes. Interesting. So this is going to go and implement that new feature for us, and once it's done, we can commit it. But I'm going to go ahead and jump over the Copilot side though while that's working. So let's dive into it. So I would imagine all of us here know what GitHub is. But to access your Copilot dashboard, it is in your menu here, and you just go to Copilot. And so this is the landing page for your Copilot instance or subscription that you have. The first thing I like to show off, or not show off, but to remind everybody to do is go to Settings, and then we're going to scroll all the way down here and then to the privacy. You probably don't want it to use your data or for model training. That's a pretty common thing that people want to turn off. It is on by default. And then you could also say that, tell it whether you want to use public code or not. I have it for allowed for right now for instructional purposes. But that's probably one of the first things that you want to do before you start using it. There might be a way to do that in the Visual Studio Code side as well, but I wanted to show you here. So you can actually do execute agents in kind of the cloud in GitHub here, based upon specific repositories. So you can see all my different repositories I have here. I can select one of them, and then I can spin it off to an agent that's working behind it, but on the background, and it just makes the changes for me. And what happens is that it'll create a pull request for me to review. So you'll see the executing agents. You see an agent that I've run previously. The spaces is a place for you to, from what I understand, it's a place to share knowledge about your projects and your organization that will be leveraged when you're executing your agents against your code, making code changes. And it's a space I've not used much of. I'm curious if anybody has used it extensively yet. The spaces section in GitHub Copilot. Okay. It seems like it could be really powerful, but I've not really taken a lot of time to figure it out.
Is this code spaces or is this something different?
This is GitHub Copilot's spaces.
I just played around with it. It seems like you can link multiple repos together.
You can absolutely do that
because I've got a GitHub project,
mm-hmm.
And projects are so funky because you can create issues across multiple repos.
Yep.
Yeah. I was trying to get it so that I could just spitball user stories into my project, but so I linked all of my repos into here, but it didn't seem to work.
It didn't work very well.
Yeah, but perhaps this would be useful because then if I can spin up agents like you're showing with agents within a space, then it's like, okay, my front end code can actually look at my back end code and be like, yeah, that's what that is.
Absolutely.
That would be ideal. Yeah. That's what I intuited that this page was for.
Yeah.
Is there any way so that when you create a pull request or something like that, to have the agent automatically just deploy, to have that I don't know, some sort of an automation mode where basically when you create the pull request, you don't even need to assign it, or can you just assign it to the agent when you create it? How does that work?
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go next. Is just kind of bringing up some of the repository here that I have. Actually, I want to go to the repository that I'm working on right now. So, nope, I'm not going to use this repository. I'm going to use a different repository. So, one thing that you see, this is Improving Vegas Room Party. We we have an annual retreat in Vegas, and we created an invitation, and that's really what this is. It's a glorified invitation, and it had a drink list and all that stuff. But kind of going back to what you were asking about the pull requests. So if we look at one of the pull requests here, you can assign it to Copilot to do its thing and do code reviews, essentially what it's going to do. You can set that up automatically when a pull request is created too, which is pretty cool. So going back to, let's go ahead and I'll show you the other feature I wanted to show you guys here.
Was your question more like
yeah.
if you merge a pull request, then it triggers an agent?
I asked it totally wrong. I meant can you just assign tasks such that basically I'm working with a Kanban board myself that I kind of vibe coded, and I just want to be able to, as I put things onto the board, I'm thinking about wiring it into something like Copilot. As I put things onto the board, I just want an agent to automatically start working on those things. Almost like you would a team of developers, but I mean, I don't want to get too off task.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen that as a feature in the GitHub ecosystem as an automatic thing.
Yeah,
but there's no reason why you couldn't orchestrate that.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed, because what you were talking about, for instance, if a user story was created and then something like that would automatically trigger the agent to write the code and create the pull request, do the full straight from the user story. I've heard of people doing that, but I haven't gotten there myself.
Well, in that case, you also would want it not just to go from the user story. You want it to inspect the user story and break it down and look at your code and create tasks right before it actually does any execution. So typically, you want that that'd be another step you want to review before it actually executes the code, maybe. Or I guess it depends on your level of risk tolerance. You could just let it do its thing and then review the code afterwards. But there's so many different ways to dissect that challenge that you're trying to overcome. Okay, let's. I have to go to a project of my own. For some reason, I thought I could do this in forks, and I was not correct. So we can go into issues, and then I can create a new issue, and I can say there are no unit tests. There are no unit tests in the solution. This is a problem we must resolve. So let's say you have a public GitHub that people are submitting issues to, and what you can end up doing is you can say, okay, that looks good. We can add more information, but what we could also do is we can assign it to Copilot and give it some instructions. Please write the unit tests using, let's say, Jasmine. So then once we kick that off, it's going to happen behind the scenes. And if we go back to go back over here, it should pop up. This is actually happening. Work in progress. So this is going to go through and make all those changes for us. And you can watch what it's doing, and you can then interact with this live session as well while it's doing this behind the scenes. So same thing again with when you have a pull request. If you have it turned on when a pull request is made, that it'll automatically kick off an agent to do your code review, and that'll pop up here as well. So I find this is a really cool feature, and when I talk about the GitHub ecosystem, it's pretty cool. This is what I'm talking about, is the integration and the automation that's built into it. Now, you can do a lot of this with other tools too, but it's nice that this is just, with one subscription, it all comes out of the box for you. Let's see here. What else do I have? What questions? I've talked a lot. We've answered. People have asked questions. I've answered questions. What other questions does people have as this goes?
So as far as it goes with on here, like what would have on there like in a GitHub repository where like if it was say GitHub, like the Copilot help, would it state anywhere on the project where I believe it was help like this was help done by Copilot to indicate to know like it was done from Copilot, not by any actual contributors. Versus like if a person who contributed to helping the issue, like how would it differentiate? So that way somebody can check and see, okay, these were done by people who helped fix the issue versus this is what the AI did to help fix the issue.
Let me try to restate your question. How do we distinguish whether AI made the change or a human made the change?
Kind of like if somebody's like looking through like say the repository, and they're like looking at say like which like made the changes and like the like would say like if the AI made the change, would say the AI made the change, like changes here, here, and here versus say for instance like if there was like a person who made these changes, would state the person made the changes here, here, and here. Like say for instance if like the AI, the Copilot, but also say somebody else was assigned to that issue, like both are like working on the same task, how would it differentiate of knowing which one, which solution came from which person?
I'm so sorry. I don't think I'm understanding the question.
The way that I'm hearing him is when when Copilot makes a commit,
yeah,
who's the author?
In
Git, who is the author?
Depends. Right?
Yeah, let's look at that.
Yeah, it depends on which flow you're going for.
Because that would help his use case of trying to find out which commits were made by AI versus human.
Yeah. Now, I've never actually looked at that. That's a good question.
If you assign an issue to GitHub, the commits are made by Copilot, and you can see that in the commit history. And so you have that in your merge request, but you actually would merge it into there so you can see fill it with requests, right? Versus if you're in VS Code and you're just coding along, you have the agent in the sidebar. From Git's perspective, that all just looks like you.
Does it also show which model?
No.
No, that, I wouldn't expect that. Here's actually one that I've never merged in, so you can see what it looks like. This went through and it created this pull request, and I asked it to create dark mode.
And if you look at the participants there on the right.
Yes, it says Copilot.
Yes.
Yep.
At the bottom too.
Where do you see that at?
On the right-hand side.
Towards the bottom, left. It's 2%.
Right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, so then I never merge this in, but let's just say ready for review, and then merging is blocked. I locked this one down.
It does. I mean, it looks like it does have like Copilot.
But I think it would. Yeah, I do think it would show up as Copilot. We'd probably look here too.
And that's where the difference between
Copilot.
the author and the committer comes into.
I never had a desire to look at that, so I'm glad you brought that up.
You have another question?
Go ahead.
This is more just like kind of a question about the future and how soon you think all this stuff is coming. Jensen Wong recently said that like software and said engineers, developers, whatever, that we're primarily going to be code reviewers in the future. Based on your experience with these tools, I just love getting people's opinions that are diving in. How far do you feel like you're from that personally, being in that stage where you're primarily reviewing code?
That's really where I'm at now. I mean, I say that I am writing maybe 10% of my code, but it's more likely like 0.5% of my code. Most of it is just all through prompting and agents and things like that. So it's oftentimes I'm describing what I'm trying to do, giving it the right context. That's a big one to get the best results, is giving it the appropriate context. So an example of that is I have a bug that is showing up in Datadog. We're using the Datadog MCP server, and we can connect the code with our telemetry in Datadog and say we're seeing this issue, and then it can join both of them together to figure out how to fix it. So in this distributed environment that I'm in, performance is a big challenge. We want to make sure that it is running as fast as we can. So we're not seeing any bugs, but we're able to leverage the metrics that Datadog's capturing to then optimize our code appropriately. So it's stuff that we could do as humans. I've done in the past, right?
Yeah.
But it does it 100 times faster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
If you go back to that repo and go to pull request, it does say Copilot and it has an AI like tag next to it. So if you just go over one pull request, just like the list, go up top, what's the pull request?
Up here?
Yeah, scroll the list. It says Copilot and then it has like the AI tag up on the side.
Oh yeah, it does. The pull request.
Like Copilot uses it, and that was awesome.
Hover over your little personal icon.
But I think they have that little AI tag to distinguish that like it is the user Copilot, but like
I think you are a code reviewer if you wanted to approve this and push it through. And then we can actually see it in the commit history. While Bentley does that. This is, we asked,
I don't
this,
know, I didn't see the whole everything
yeah, talking to a QE over there.
Just approve it.
Just approve it.
Or you want me to actually merge it? I approve it.
I can merge it. Yeah.
Well, what, I'll merge it itself.
You can set it to auto merge.
Well, Copilot, like, oh, it's going to improve.
No, that we wouldn't want it to do that. It's not. You sure you did the right one?
I did the Jasmine test.
Oh, you did the Jasmine test. Okay. Oh, there we go. Squash and merge. Sure, let's
Well, at
go.
least it's good to know, unless it was exciting, I was like,
Okay.
Have you worked with private packages at all? Like
Yeah,
one of the problems that I ran into is like I spin up agents and like it can't get the build to work because it doesn't have access to my GitHub packages.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really it kind of has to guess.
Well,
it can't actually compile the code.
are they NPM or are they NuGet?
NPM and
And NuGet. Okay, so yeah, we have our own private NuGet repository, and it's working just fine through NuGet config. So that's how we're getting it to work. We don't. I'm more on the back end right now than I am the front end.
So you store a secret in a NuGet config?
No, it's not in the NuGet config. It's in the with the NuGet. We're using passkeys and then the one at the root level. So that's how it's authenticating right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Are you aware of like any bigger companies or bigger? Doesn't need to be bigger companies that like are doing well with agents and holding keys and stuff like that, or like is there anybody that's doing it with like MCP servers or something that you're aware of? Just because that's something that I'm concerned about all the time is proper management of my keys, especially giving them to agents, which I know they're isolated. When you do it locally and even in GitHub and stuff like that, but just as agents reach farther into the infrastructure, it's just it's something I'm always thinking about.
Yeah, no, we definitely have some clients that are managing that well. I'm not too familiar with the details behind it all. I personally haven't had the experience in that space, in that part of it yet. So I really can't talk too much about that. That's definitely something to be to dig into, and it's definitely a concern.
I think they added a new version of OAuth to be able to help support that.
Oh, new what?
Version of OAuth.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah, I did remember reading about that one. Yeah, good call. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's in the commit history. So you see that it says Copilot. And me, I guess, and then I don't see that tag doesn't look like it's here. Or no, there it is. Okay, so it is identified by this little image here. But it says Copilot. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so any questions or anything else you want to see with the how Copilot works and what's that?
What did it do in that folder?
Yeah, we didn't review it, so we violated one of our rules here.
We got to review it. Don't think I can do that quick.
All these double checks.
Yeah. So this is the one I wrote to make it create Jasmine unit tests for the code. There's not a lot in this code, so I can't expect it to do much. So one thing it did do is update the git ignore. It updated the README file, which is great. How do we test this properly? It added some packages for Jasmine, which is what we wanted to do, and then it added the specs. Background toggle functionality should toggle back to active background on second click. So it went through and tested it. There is no CI in this, so we don't know if it actually works. But that would be another check. Is after the tests were run, does CI work? That would probably stop it if it wasn't working. What I don't know, we'd have to go back to the agent and look at it to see if it took the time to validate. It's like, make sure you run the test before you commit. Verify everything. All 12 tests passed successfully. So it's in the commit message here, and it gave us the test coverage. That's actually been kind of a lot of my experience. In a case where I'm asking it to write tests, it's going to run those tests to make sure that it actually works, which is great because I'm not the most detailed person as a developer, which is interesting to say out loud. And this kind of helps me because it does that. It's like, hey, you want to run those tests too.
Go back one. Looks like it's better than the message.
Yeah. I think I showed that out. Yeah.
It was AI.
Where were you saying that?
All that. Go on.
Yep, co-authored. Yep, yeah, that was in the main view. I pointed that out too.
So like, even though it is AI, it's like you're the one that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Shared way.
So people will yell at you instead of Copilot.
Yeah,
It's covering its own.
you don't want AI doing it all. Yeah, you just got to review it. So, kind of going back to some of your original sentiment, where are things going? And the way I've seen it is it's a lot of agent-driven development is where we're heading, and so orchestration. Maybe you have an agent that is a platform engineer or an Azure specialist, or you have an agent that is you might call it something like a BA, and it's going to write down, help you with writing use cases. Then you can have one to help you write the implement this Jira ticket. Not just implement it, but task it out. You have all these different agents, and just kind of putting all this together. Like a good tool for that that's out of the box is Kylo. Kylo has this orchestration feature where you can create a bunch of different agents that have different roles and contexts, and you can run something like that through the whole thing. You can start with whatever task you're trying to do, and it'll do it all for you locally.
What I've seen so far is literally just people with like a bunch of different markdown files that they're like inserting into whatever system prompt, or when they give the agent context. And I just wasn't. I feel like it's going to get past that, but by some standard, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Absolutely. I mean, you can. That's what a lot of people are doing before. Like what I want to show next is spec-driven development. If anybody's not familiar with that, real quick. But that's a lot of people before spec-driven development started becoming popular, kind of created their own system. I know plenty of people that were early adopters to AI assisted tooling, and they're like, how do we make this better? How do we make this better? And what they ended up landing on is just creating their own system of creating markdown files that do exactly what you're talking about. So now we're starting to see frameworks and tools kind of doing that in their own way. And one of my favorite ones is called GitHub Spec Kit. So if we go, what I'm going to do so GitHub Spec Kit. I'll show you guys that real quick. Who's familiar with spec-driven development? Wow. Okay. All right. I got you guys on one. What about so? Have you used GitHub Spec Kit? Okay. What's your experience been?
I haven't had a ton of time to play with it. I like it. I have some coworkers who swear by it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's a tool. It's a IDE agnostic tool. Is the best way to put it. And there's this GitHub here. It's one of the most popular frameworks for doing spec-driven development. What spec-driven development is, how do we break down our work into chunks? How do we focus? How do we take what we're trying to do and break it down into smaller components? So it starts off with, what are you trying to do and why? That's all you tell it, what and why. You don't give any technical information. And then once you narrow down what your what and why, it creates your use cases in this case. For Spec Kit at least. Then the next step is, okay, now let's create a plan. And the plan, you're going to start going into technical details and like how you're going to implement them. And then you say, I want to task this out. And then it's going to break down everything into its separate tasks, small tasks. The smaller they are, the better, the more accurate your results are going to be. So there's a video that the person who's been supporting this, or the people that have been supporting this, highly recommend going out and watching it if you're interested in GitHub Spec Kit. The only guide you ever need for GitHub Spec Kit. This is a tool. The video is longer than it'll take you to learn it. I'll just tell you that.
Wow.
So it walks you through how you install it. It's using Python. But I've already got it installed. But what you do at your root, you go specify init, and then we're going to go period, because I wanted to add it to the root here. And then I'm just going to clobber anything that's here. So you'll see here, where did my context go? Why is this not working all of a sudden? I've had this happen before. So it'll go through this IDE, this prompt, and say which IDE are you using. There we go. I'm already using GitHub Copilot, so it's perfect. That was the first one. Then you can choose between PowerShell and Bash. I'm using Mac, so I'm going to use Bash. I could use PowerShell. I haven't installed. So what happens is that is going to get down a fresh installation, the latest release for this specify framework, the spec kit framework, and install it at your root level. And it has its own convention that it's following for spec-driven development. This is something that's built into, if you've heard of Amazon's Cairo. They have two different modes that they provide. One is a spec-driven mode, and one's a vibe coding mode, just right off the bat. So this again is an agnostic tool to the IDEs that you can put on pretty much all of them. So, and again, it has its own conventions that it follows. You'll see the different scripts, the templates, and then you'll see that it added some prompts So, and the prompts is what we're gonna, go ahead.
Where's your usage coming from for SpecKit? Is that still from just your regular Copilot?
Yeah, it's leveraging, yep, absolutely. That's why there's an installation for each of them.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, great question though. But once you get this installed, it tells you exactly what you got to do. The first thing is you got to create your constitution. Well, what is the constitution? It's basically your governing principles about your application. What's that?
So I guess that's a good word for it.
Yeah. So we'll do specify. Constitution. I'm just going to let it rip to create a constitution. So this is going to go through and fill this out, and this is going to be what SpecKit uses for when you're leveraging its conventions and creating your whatever you're trying to do. So it's going to be the guiding principles. And what I've started doing when I'm using SpecKit, since the constitution is specific to the SpecKit, I've created a rule that GitHub Copilot or Cursor can actually reference, so that we have unity between the two. So this is going to go ahead and update this eventually.
Sorry, you just said that it'll be recognized between the different IDEs?
If you add it.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta. That's a custom code that you have to write. So in this case, it would be an instruction to say, instead of having the instructions that we have. I blew those away. But you remember the instructions that we had for code using best practices in here? You would basically write some verbiage, probably give it a high level of what you're trying to do, and say, this is your golden rules to follow this constitution, essentially. Taking a little longer. So, but once this is done, then we'll go through and there we go. Let's just look at this real quick. Keep all. So again, this is following its own convention. A bunch of information here for itself, but then it's like, okay, TDD is mandatory for this code, non-negotiable. Red green refactor. Here's the rules. Here's why we're doing it. Following MVC architecture. All the things that you would typically want in your code base and to follow, and that you're likely already enforcing. So then once we're done with that, I like to go to a different context window, and then I'm going to go specify, and then so this is, I would like to add, as we blew away our code, no, I would like to add, so what do we want to add here, guys? Just give me something. I would like to add
expelling students.
Expelling students. Thank you. Students. So that when they are bad, we can kick them out. So you notice I didn't use any technical jargon here. I just said what I'm trying to do and a little bit of why. So this is going to go through, and I got to allow that, and build out our use cases. And then it'll create a new branch here in a moment, and then it's going to create a new folder to keep this information. So what I've been experimenting with this a lot lately, especially at my client. My client's given me the ability to the freedom to do that, which has been great. But my experience with this is it's evolving. I've gotten better and better with using it, but it's a very powerful tool. The accuracy of what comes out of this is pretty high because we're breaking it down into different chunks. or smaller chunks, I should say. So this created this spec file and this 001 expel students, and you'll see that the branch is 001 expel students. And then it's going to give us all the use cases and the acceptance criteria, and then you can tweak this if you want to. It's still going. Come on, faster.
Hey, Chris, Zach.
Hey, Zach.
So for the Constitution, if you didn't have like that instruction file, how could you build it?
I would have it build it, but if you wanted to feel ambitious and build it yourself, go for it. But
So like, does it want that instruction?
yeah, it really somebody on my team tried GitHub Spec Kit and they skipped that step and they were just getting really weird results. So you definitely want to have that constitution because it's like the golden rule that it's using throughout the whole process.
Well, I'm saying like you use your instruction file that you already had.
I did not in this case.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
Just gather that.
I just told it to create one. I didn't even give it any context. I just said I used the prompt and for Constitution I just hit enter and then it has some defaults behind the scenes.
Give it like anything when you.
What's that?
You give it like.
Yeah, you can give it all kinds of information. If you already know what your tech stack's going to be, I would highly recommend saying this is a .NET project. I want to follow TDD. We're leveraging mass transit with RabbitMQ, and it's going to add all the best practices and things like that into your Constitution.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any degradation of whatever comes out of this for a worker code basis? Or
Yeah. This is it follows the whole context challenge that we have with AI. Just in general, another tool that I would recommend that is like probably more suited for large code bases would be BMAD. I have no experience with it, but from what I understand, it works really well for brownfield projects. It's another framework that follows this on steroids.
Let's just spell BMAD.
BMAD, yeah. Let's bring it up real quick. Yeah, BMAD code. BMAD method. Yeah. So that's definitely one I'm planning to explore in the future, and I would recommend everybody else checking out as well, especially for what you're talking about. Okay, so this created a spec file and it created the requirements. These are the use cases, and then the requirements. And the requirements is a check and balance for itself. You'll see here that I've never had this actually happen, but something that needs clarification. I'm just going to, it's probably asked me here. Yep. So we won't be able to move forward until this is checked. So I'm just going to say choose A. I don't even know what it says. I'm just trying to move this forward. Go ahead.
Have you had any issues? This is just GitHub Copilot versus Cursor versus anti-gravity. I noticed anti-gravity different times of the day. It might be my tier.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's so slow during some times of the day. Cursor never seems to have that issue as long as you give them enough money.
Yep.
What have you found? What's your experience done with this?
Yeah, so in full transparency, I use GitHub Copilot personally, and I'm using Cursor professionally right now, and Windsurf professionally. So I've not really experienced that because that's more outside of hours, and I've not experienced a slowdown during the day.
Anti-gravity definitely has.
Anti-gravity, I've not used that yet. I know there's some people in here who have.
Just erroring left and right.
It's crazy. Yeah, it happens around 7 a.m. for me every morning with that fail.
It's probably when everybody's on it. Probably the server's being slammed.
Yeah.
It might be just something as simple as that.
How many developers you know 7 o'clock up at night?
I operate 7 in the morning.
Well, you got to remember time zones, right?
I'm trying to get earlier and earlier to beat people, and it just it doesn't work.
2 in the morning. 2 in the morning.
I'm nocturnal now.
So I'll try to speed this up. I know we're kind of going long. So you'll see that the requirements is finally checked. So let's move forward. Move forward with, oops, I'm going to create a new window here. And then we're going to say plan. I'm just going to let it rip. In planning mode, this is where you can give it the tech details. What's going to happen behind the scenes. It's going to look at the code. It's going to actually start doing research to be able to understand what it needs to do, how to make the right decision, what packages we're going to use, etc. It's really going to break down your specifications into a technical plan to implement. Wish I could speed this up.
Is it going to write code against these rules? Are you going to demo that?
Say that again.
Is it going to write code against like these rules, or?
Yeah, so with the specify, again, it's going to leverage the whole time, especially during implementation, it's going to be leveraging what the Constitution to make sure that it's abiding by its standards. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
I'd like to see it write some code.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. So part of spec-driven development is like let's focus on the what and the why before we focus on the how. And so that's the process here. We're going to create rules, governing principles for a repository. Then we're going to say what we're trying to do and why, and then we're going to plan out the tech, like how, and then we're going to break it out into smaller tasks so that then we can just say go ahead and implement. And it's going to go through, implement some of these in parallel, some of them sequentially. You'll see it in a second, though. Yeah, we're going to get there.
Is this like BDD and Gherkins?
I'm sorry?
Is this like BDD and Gherkins?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Like
if we familiar with that?
Yeah, I haven't used it in a while.
Yeah.
But the
it seems like the latest marination of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just look at the acceptance criteria. Given an administrator is viewing when they select expel student, blah blah blah. So
yeah.
SpecFlow is a tool that I like, and it just died basically. I forget the name of the company. They killed it, and now we've got this test base.
You liked SpecFlow, huh?
I liked it.
Okay.
Back in 2013, it was really cool.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
It's a cool concept. It's a cool concept, but now we've got the project that we're on. We've got a bunch of tests in SpecFlow. It's like, great, now it's not supported anymore. What are we going to throw at it to rethink it? So this looks pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just kind of looking at this closer, that breaks it down into different user stories, and then it gives the acceptance card, given, when, then, a syntax, etc. And then this is still going for the plan. We can kind of see, it gives a summary. Here's all the technical context, kind of bulleted. We're going to use XUnit with MOQ, Fluent Assertion, SQL Server, Entity Framework. Does it have test containers in here? I don't see test containers, but test containers is a cool one to help you with integration tests. I've been using that a lot lately. You'll see that it creates your contracts. It kind of like pseudo or kind of writes out what it will implement when you go to implement. And then you can see that we have research, so it's going to go through and say, it's going to create a question for itself. Entity extension strategy for expelling students. How should we extend the existing student entity with expulsion-related fields? I never said that, but it went through in its decision model and decision process to say, I need to go figure this out. And then it created, it decided for itself, and then it rationalized itself. You can continue to iterate on this until you like it. It has the data model, which is going to be like, this looks like the database model, any validation rules. This is really the technical design is what this is doing. So this is done. Perfect, the plan is now complete. All right, let's keep all. So going back to the plan, these defines all the different gates in different phases, et cetera, and et cetera. It's really in depth and does a really good job. So let's create another window here, and then we're going to task it out. And this is the last step before we can actually go and implement. And there's steps in between. So if we look back here, after we installed it, let me go back here. You'll see that after we installed it, it told us what to do. But there's other things, optional ones, clarify, ask structured questions to de-risk ambiguous areas. And you run this before you run the plan. So this would be after the spec. Analyze, cross-artifact consistency and alignment. I always run that. And this is after you run the tasks before you implement. And what that does is it basically says, when we generate the tasks, did we capture everything? You'd be surprised every single time it finds something that it missed. So while it's super thorough, it's not, still runs into its own challenges. Okay, so let's see, it hasn't created the tasks folder yet. I am working on a side project myself and using SpecKit and what I did is I kind of went outside the box a bit. I was using ChatGPT's latest model and I was like, hey, this is the idea that I have. Let's break it down into high level what I'm trying to do and create some epics for it. So then I told SpecKit, it's like, hey, use this information that I already have and let's actually implement this. And that's actually been a really good experience for me. All right, so here's all the tasks. And just kind of glancing through this, it starts like, we've got to create this shared infrastructure first. And you'll notice here it has this P, and that indicates that this can be done in parallel. And what we'll see when we implement it, you'll actually see these actions happening in parallel. And it's marked as like, this is critical, this has to happen. So there's an order to this chaos a bit as it's needed, but I find it really cool that we're able to, it's able to do things in parallel. Now what it doesn't do is it doesn't create multiple agents. I think it's just doing it all in Python. There we go. What we've all been waiting for.
So is it just going to go through every single task?
Yeah, and it's going to check it off. Yeah.
Is there a way to say, I only want you to do the first task?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just, all these prompts that you execute, you can tell it. You can just say, hey, I want to do first phase first, and then I want to look at it in second phase, and then even in the middle of all this, you like I can add a prompt to queue up and for it to pick up when it has a chance to pick it up.
Is the spec-driven development stuff that I've done is with AWS's Hero.
Yeah.
And it follows a similar like three-phase kind of approach.
Yep.
We've taken yet another VS Code clone and created our own IDE. But as the advantage of that is inside the IDE, like there's little just context buttons. You can just click on it and say, I want you to do this task. And it'll just take care of it. It won't be, you don't have to type, you don't have to do any of that. And there's some niceties built into that.
Yeah.
It's yet another VS.
Right, and that's what you can get out of a tool that you build around spec-driven development, right? In this case, this is a plugin for any IDE, and so we've got to do that all through prompt right now. Yeah. Until they create like a VS Code extension, or something like that.
I'm sure they're working.
Use it to create one.
You're not wrong. So you can see that it's going to, and see then it's talking about parallel items that it can do, that it's going to do next. And we can follow along on the different steps that it's going through. So,
Chris,
yeah.
What have you seen when it comes to one of the things that Cursor has issues with? Actually, all of them do because of the staleness of the models and depending on what you're using.
Yeah.
And obviously .NET, React, Tailwind not as much now since they fired most people. Sadly, but you see those frameworks. All the versions change, and all of them will hallucinate and tell you, "Oh, you're on the latest. I've got the latest for you." And then it'll detect since there's version problems, and you auto do it and let it code. Have you had? You said you started a greenfield thing for yourself.
Yeah.
Did you actually end up doing it manually to build most of the starting framework for project, or did you let it build everything from scratch? And did you run into problems with Git? Because Cursor is a problem when it comes to doing React, the latest things. Mm-hmm. It'll almost always trip over things because it says, "Oh, I don't know this one," because it depends on the model you're using. Right?
Yeah. I've definitely run into that. It's a lot of back and forth, and to get it right. Like I don't even know if it's an Expo project, and I don't even know if it's set up right now. I need to go back to that.
Well, and that's another one because if you get Xcode and you get the latest versions of the back beta, it'll screw up with those too because I've had that issue. Mm-hmm. I know there was something at CodeMash they mentioned. I can't remember the name of it. There's a API, that it's a paid product, to now provide documentation, like latest documentation that you can hit, I think is an MCP. So
Yeah, somebody sent me one
Context 7
recently.
is free, but
That's
it does
what-
have rate
yeah.
limits.
That's the one.
Yeah,
But you're really not gonna hit the rate limit too much. It's my
Okay.
favorite
Yeah.
MCP server.
yeah.
Context 7.
Because that'll give you that, it'll kind of get you over that hurdle, right?
That's fantastic.
A lot of this stuff, like, and what my mind goes to is just micro optimizations for a process. Like, that's maybe a 5-minute hiccup, right? That you
Yeah,
might
well,
have to go back.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's usually more than that every time you do it. But I think that the MCP probably is the right way right now, as long as you trust the documentation loading
Yeah.
into that, because we talked earlier, the tainting
Right,
prompts, that's the problem you kind of have to worry about.
right.
All that.
And the standard for MCP has been updated recently to allow you to choose when it's loaded, because there's a challenge that you can run into when you use a lot of different MCP servers, that we're all using a lot of tokens to figure out which MCP server to use, or it's using too much context. But now the open standard allows you to give it conditions.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We have Confluence in Jira, and if you, together, one of the MCP Atlassian is that it has like 48 tools. And you can click on your cursor to disable the ones you don't want. A lot of them you don't need, but if you don't, it becomes very cumbersome. And there is limits with different models. They'll just choke and say, there's too many tools enabled.
Yeah.
If you're trying to build front end, like it sounds like you
I use that just to actually this is to get documentation from our company. And I use it a lot of times just because it's faster than going to an LLM. I'll just use cursor to open it in chat and say, use this to go get, and it'll extract data faster with that MCP and combine data sources to get me a summary of whatever I want in my company faster than I can look up using the searches or anything there. So
highly recommend using
Are you talking about documentation for your own code base or documentation for?
No,
Okay,
I'm talking like Tailwind,
That's
React.
what I thought.
Because a lot of times like recently React went to 19, Tailwind went to version 4, ShadCN went up to, and they all kind of, if it doesn't know if the model's stale, it'll say, oh, I'm only on 18. Then it'll try to backtrack off everything else and say, well, I can't use this because it's not compatible, because it'll put 18 in, not 19, and then everything starts to break. And then it'll fight with itself, and it'll tell it, no, this is valid, and you point to it, and then it forgets it again in a couple minutes. And you end up with this weird loop for minutes and minutes of like, and at some point you're just like, literally, I'll yell at it and just say, follow the documentation. Here are the 2 links. Do not go outside this. Don't tell the versions. Just follow the instructions.
Yep, absolutely.
But I was just curious of how because it's different here, and I haven't used this one as much, other than for C# code.
Yeah.
And I was curious how obviously if it's Microsoft, I assume they might have tooling. Do they provide an MCP already or update documentation so much with the Git, the cursor, or sorry, the GitHub Copilot? Do they update it so that it's not stale? Like
there is a Microsoft Learn MCP server.
Yeah. Okay.
That has
Yeah, there's
so then you're limited by the quality of MS Learn.
Yeah.
Whether that's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging.
There was colleagues says about that.
MS Plus, right?
What's that?
Context 7 should give you what's on MS Learn as well. So.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's an aggregate of all the important documentation sites.
And it's got literally 2 tools, so it's like it's tiny.
I mean, I guess I do this all day long, and I rarely run into that as a challenge. But it is a challenge to overcome, and there's definitely tools that we can.
Anything that's bleeding edge, you're going to have Context 7 will help and some other things, I think, will, but that's sort of, if it's bleeding edge, you're probably going to always run into that issue.
Yeah.
Until they get better at rapidly updating these models and more.
And reinforcing in your own rules, cursor rules or whatever, to say, you must, when I give you this is what you must follow. And it's not always going to work that it's an LM, so sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. But you guys can see this going through, and I was going to kind of end this. What's up?
So what's your take on keeping up with how much volume this stuff can generate? We as humans, it takes us a while to read this stuff, to absorb what's been done, and to judge the quality of the output. I think as experts, a lot of experience, you can go, oh, I know how that works. I know it's either good or bad, and I can spot those things. They're a little off.
Yeah.
But if you put these tools in the hands of someone that either is new to a topic area,
yeah,
how are they going to know whether it's good or bad? And then you're kind of like, it's kind of run away. It's probably limited to just how many tokens you can afford.
Yeah. We definitely have a challenge there, especially with people trying to get in the field. I feel like these tools are really good for people who have been in the field for 5-10 years. We can really maximize our output and our productivity from it because we know what to look for, right? But like somebody trying to get into the field, there's things that they can do, but they're still going to have to want to learn, and because this is still not perfect, you're gonna find things. I mean, we can have it. One thing that I like to do is anytime there's a code change, I ask it to think critically about what it did, and then it usually finds something and can redoes it. But at the same time, you also have to be cognizant of that. Anytime you ask it to do something, it's going to do something too, so you can run into that situation. But there's things that we can put in place to help with that, but it's not. It is something that we, as a in our field, we need to be cognizant of. And
well, one thing I like with the Constitution and some of the the Copilot instructions, you can get a lot farther into the intent of how you want to look and feel, and that can help govern some of that. I think for juniors, it would probably be good to borrow excerpts from some established sources, people you trust, or some of these like Microsoft naming standards, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've gone really long. I didn't expect this to go for as long as it has, guys.
Session starting in 5 minutes.
So we just went over a GitHub spec kit, and then so what's next? Check out GitHub Spark. It is a tool to. It's a newer tool. It was in preview when I last did this, but I think it's out now. You can use it if you pay for the highest tier. And it's a tool to help you rapid develop and understand code bases. And then you have GitHub Code Spaces, which has been around for a while. And what's cool about that is it gives you like a virtual, a cloud-based workstation essentially. That's all you'd just be doing through your web browser. And then for those of you that are not a fan of GUIs and love the CLI, and then GitHub CLI, it does exist for Copilot, and gives you the same feel as Claude Code if you're familiar with that. So some things to check out. For GitHub Spark, of course, you have to pay for the highest tier to check that out, but GitHub Code Spaces comes with the mid-tier, which is the one that's $30 a month. And then I think the CLI comes with $30 as well. So check that out. What's not on here, I removed it because I showed it was the GitHub Spec Kit, but I'd highly recommend trying that out. I think it's a really great tool to help you learn spec-driven development, get more accurate results out of the code that you're doing. Sean, did you have a question? Okay, all right. And then that is it. On the left, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, love to connect. On the right is that yearly subscription for GitHub Copilot if anybody's interested. I was able to give one away last time I did this, and that's just something I'm glad I've been able to do. I can take more questions at this point. It's up to you guys. We've talked about a lot.
Thanks for using all your tokens on us.
Yep, absolutely. We should check that out, see if I'm maxed out yet. I mean, it's still going right now.
Don't hit the budget. No,
yeah.